John DeSando. Listen to shows and read reviews online at WCBE.org.
I'm John DeSando.
And I'm Mindy Mcfann.
And this is It's Movie Time.
Mm-hmm.
Mindy, you hurt my feelings.
And which one did I do? Why, who, where, what, and how? What'd I do?
And we can't count the ways that we all hurt each other's feelings. But this is a film starring Julia Louis-Dreyfus, most of all.
Mm-hmm. Who I love.
Yes, and if you've ever seen her, I, of course, have seen her on Seinfeld.
Mm-hmm.
And I consider her one of the premier comedians of our time.
Oh, absolutely.
Would you say that's...
Yeah, Veep is one of my favorite shows.
Yes, yes, and she's less of the Elaine that I knew on Seinfeld in this movie.
Yes,
Would you
absolutely.
say? And
yeah.
Would that be true of Veep, which I've not seen?
Veep is absolutely hilarious.
Okay.
Absolutely hilarious, but she plays a very acerbic politician in that one. So it's nothing like this either.
All right, so she headlines a very fine cast, I think.
Yes.
Set in New York.
Mm-hmm.
This is why you're here. Well, this is not why. This is why you're here. But you have a New York vibe about you. I think you have 2 kids there, don't you?
Absolutely.
What's it about, Mindy?
It is about 2 couples, basically, and the machinations of their life. She's an author, and she overhears her husband saying, and then they have a quote-unquote great marriage, and she overhears her husband saying he doesn't like her novel. I think it was the novel.
Yes, right. Well,
Yeah. She had written a memoir also. But
it's doubtful whether he liked the memoir now.
Yes.
But yeah, here's a very simple thing happening
Mm-hmm.
that I find to be in the daily intercourse of people profound.
Mm-hmm.
The honesty between people. This can be a couple or friends or whatever, right? The honesty. And this is what devastates her, because she's not yet learned to separate herself from her work.
Right, right.
And he's a therapist.
Yes, he is. He's really not enjoying his work, which I can understand.
Mindy, how about the scene with that couple that's always fighting?
Yeah, he's a therapist, and he has this one couple that are just, they're awful to each other, just awful. But they keep going to therapy for years to try to work out, but seem not to want to work at anything that would work it out.
And so, and the comedy in this, because it's tough to call it a comedy, but it is. It has those comic moments, and that's one for me.
Right.
When they decide they're going to sue him for 2 years.
And $33,000.
And how many times have people thought about, well, I don't know if this psychologist or this therapist is really helping me. And how many of them thought, I'll sue him, I won't even pay him.
I'm surprised the therapists don't sue their clients. I mean, you come in and it's like you go to a doctor and say, I have a headache, take an aspirin. No. I mean, that's who they were, you know? They didn't want to get better.
In the matter of that, it seems to me that this therapist has a flaw, but it's one that we consider all the time with that kind of therapist, which is not to assert himself. Would that be correct? In other words, that he sits there and does the how do you feel bit.
I think I don't think therapists are supposed to fix you. I think
Yeah.
they're supposed to show you how to fix yourself.
Yes.
But I imagine, and I say this from working in a school, it's very, very hard to help people who do not want to change. I mean, we had this conversation recently at work, is why do some people thrive and some people don't? And I think a lot is, are you capable of taking help from people? If you are not taking you can't take help from people, I don't know how you get better or change, because otherwise you're going to still doing the same crap you've always been doing.
Right. But when this is just not about him as a therapist, but it's so amusing to me.
Mm-hmm.
And when he mixes up some couples.
Yeah.
Oops.
I think that all the time when I've been to therapy, and I'm like, there's no way I would even remember your name. I mean, I work with kids, and I'm like, hi. I don't know how and my therapist never took a note. And I'm telling you, she knew everything. She must have had a photographic memory. I don't know how they do that.
Well, looking now at Beth, I think is Julia Louis-Dreyfus's name, and her husband Don, played by Tobias Menzies, which I haven't seen before, but I really felt impressed with her husband.
Oh, I loved him in Outlander.
Okay,
He was the bad guy. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and the good guy. He was a
Yeah.
good guy and a bad guy.
What's this honesty business that I'm talking about, Mindy?
I don't know. It's kind of weird for me because I've been married for 3.5 million years, and I don't think it had to do with anything other than her own self-worth that she kind of put on him. Because I mean, I don't care what my husband thinks about my artwork. I mean, I'm sure he likes some of it and doesn't other, but I don't need his. He is not who I go to for validation. I mean.
Yeah.
Maybe I want him to cheer me on, that's nice, but I don't need him to validate me to feel like what I'm doing or who I am is enough. So I don't know if it ever works. If you're looking for validation outside of yourself, I mean, then you'd have to have somebody who is always going to agree with you, always think what you're doing is right, always what you're thinking you're doing is perfect, and I don't know if that exists.
Yeah, and see, you're a unique specimen in all this business because you are one of the most honest persons I've ever known, and not needing outside validation is you. You are definitely in charge of yourself, and you do not need others to do that. But for most people, some validation from, say, a partner may be necessary. I go back a couple hundred years maybe. I go back to Ibsen at least. He had a play called The Wild Duck, in which the claim of the ideal by a central character was that everybody's totally honest with everybody. And this is devastating. This is, at least as Ibsen sees it, it's the potential for destroying people by being honest.
Mm-hmm.
And in the cult of positivity, have you heard of that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-mm.
This is where, and I know now you'll know what I'm talking about, this is where you say with children, constantly tell them how wonderful they are, how great they've done, if they haven't done a thing. You know, in other words, you keep encouraging people, even when there's no proof that they should be encouraged that way. A kid who may not be doing well, and you're praising him for not doing well, something like that. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, I mean, my son once accused me of, what did he say? Because I just love children in their 20s. He said that it was something about I encouraged him too much, or I thought of that in the movie. He said, I don't know, I was too positive with him or something. And I was like, well, I can right now tell you what I think of you, and it's not positive, but the thing, you bring up parenting, because whenever young people are having children, what I say to them, what I believe parenting is a giant lie that you have to unravel. And the pace with which you unravel that is the key to parenting. Because when a kid's born, you say, I love you no matter what, the world is perfect, Santa's coming, we got the mortgage paid, food's always going to be on the table, we're all good. And that's what you tell a 1-year-old.
Yes.
But how you unravel that to the point where you have to tell them about racism and sexism and atomic bombs and everything else, I mean, you don't tell a 5-year-old that.
Right.
But when do you unravel that truth is, to me, the art of parenting.
Yes.
And I have not figured it out, but that's what I believe it is. And I don't know how you stay married for a very long time and you don't have these kind of blips. You know, I mean, I don't know, maybe other people, different kinds of marriages, but I screwed up so many things and said so many inappropriate things to my husband when I was tired or cranky or he literally done something crappy, and vice versa. I don't know how you have a relationship without these things.
Yes, and you're reminding me that in the film, and as you were thinking of your own son, Elliot is the name of the son.
Yeah.
And played by Owen Teague. Good job, I thought.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I'd like to see him again.
Yeah. He has been writing a play forever, right? And Mom keeps telling him how well he's doing or that he's going to do or so on, and he blames her.
Yes.
For delaying him because he was so feeling she was filling him with all these positive, this is the cult of positivity, that he couldn't see the reality of what he was doing.
Well, he's 23, and
That's right.
I apologize for the ageism, but oh my, that is not a fun age to be around children, in my humble opinion, because they get just old enough to turn around and go, you did everything wrong.
Well, writer-director Nicole Holofcener, who also directed Julia Louis-Dreyfus in Enough Said. I don't know if you saw that
No.
with James Gandolfini.
No, I did not.
Very good.
I
Yeah,
don't remember.
she tones down the comedy, and she's a middle-aged woman who is finally falls in love with this guy. It was unlikely that she would ever even be attracted to him, but somehow she became. And so this director seems to have a real sensitivity toward women, toward that time, toward trying to navigate the changes that are going on in your life. And that, I think that happens here. What the son, Elliot, can't see is that mom is in the same situation that he is.
Right.
And that's what I like, is that the writer-director has seen the parallels, because he has ambivalence towards what he's doing. He certainly is not that confident, but mom is counterbalancing that with all this positive confidence.
Right.
It's not doing him any good.
Well, it's the other thing, revelatory moment in parenting, that I gave my kids all the things I wanted. I just didn't stop till way late to ask myself if that's what they wanted. And I think she wanted to be validated, so she was giving him what she wanted.
Right.
And he didn't want it.
Right, exactly. And it followed, the same motif seems to follow through. Her sister, do you remember her sister in this?
Yeah, and the husband that's an actor.
Yes. Two of them seem to be going through the same thing. Do you remember what she is?
She's a decorator.
Yes.
And you see her through the course of it having a client who's whining about what lamp sconce is put on the wall.
Yes.
Over and over and over.
right. So, and the actor, what's going on with him?
Yeah, he's kind of ambivalent because it's not working. He wants to do it, he doesn't want to do it. I mean, you could, I mean this as, I don't mean this as a criticism per se, but you could call the movie White People Whining.
All right, the movie's name is You Hurt My Feelings. You recommend?
Yes, not strongly, but yes.